Welcome back to the Matt Kim podcast. This is part 2 of the conversation with Scott Sellers. If you missed the first one, definitely go back and check it out. It was a good one. In this episode, we discuss vices, addiction, politics, and how to overcome all those issues in your life. If you like the podcast, definitely give it a share. We can only grow through your support. Appreciate you always. Now, let's start the pod.
But as long as there's a Starbucks, people get hopped up on caffeine and be like, "Oop, I'm back."
Caffeine is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I can't function without coffee, and it's really bad. The first thing I do in the morning is
Yeah,
I
see,
have
you
to drink
say
coffee.
that, but it's the act of you telling yourself that you start to believe it. If you told yourself, "I hate coffee, I don't like it," after a while you'd be like, "I don't like it."
Well, that's how I felt about like alcohol. So I used to drink heavily, and I haven't had one drink in I'm gonna say almost 4 years now.
That's good.
None.
I go long periods of time without drinking. Like I'm on the wagon now
Yeah.
till this marathon. But no, I'm going to the yacht show in February, so I'll probably have some little bit of wine. But I have to train while I'm there, so I can't go too broad. But I have like a drink or two, but nothing, just social stuff.
Yeah. For me, it was I used to drink every night, every day, and
At least you're consistent.
well, I was very consistent, but it was bad. Early in my marriage, I would drink till, like I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go out, meet the boys, and I'll have a drink, and I'll be back. And 10 o'clock will become 11 o'clock, will become midnight, and after midnight, it's like you're not gonna see me till 10 a.m. the next morning. I would just disappear, and that's really stressful on an early marriage.
It's stressful on a rock solid marriage, you know.
Yeah, and
I don't blame.
And at a certain point, I was like, all right, I took one day off. One day became a week became a month. Not something I planned, but then that month became 3 months, became a year, became 2 years. Now I'm at 4 years. And
Now you don't want to drink just so you don't break the streak.
I don't even think about it anymore.
Yeah.
I can go to a bar and I won't have a drink. I don't even consider drinking anymore.
Yeah. I can or cannot. There's some wines that I like the taste, but I mean, I'm not going to drink to go, I'm getting fucked up. I'm just not, I'm not that.
And that's exactly how I was.
Yeah.
If I had one drink, I had to have 10.
I could be like that if it were not for two things. One is that incident that I told you about. And the second thing is I see people, I observe things. I see people that let that get the best of them. I was even commenting to Heather the other day. I hadn't been to the liquor store in a while, and we went over there to get like a bottle of wine. And I go in, and I'm looking around. I'm just noticing people, right? And I'm like, I get home. I said, "You ever notice like people in the liquor store? They look raggedy. They look way older than what they probably are, and they're not in physical good shape. And you may stumble across a guy in good shape there." Now, I've actually, after a marathon one time, my feet hurt so bad. I said, "Let's get some champagne and drink it." So she said, "Okay." So I left a marathon and went to the liquor store and got some champagne and we drank it. But, other than that, there's not a lot of healthy people that are constantly going to the liquor store. And I was like, I don't want to be like that. Kind of like the analogy with the two people in the cars. I said, I don't want to be that. So that's why I kind of curtail our drinking. Plus, it's expensive.
Yeah, I think there are people who have one or two drinks, and I saw a study on this, and it said that there's 10% of people when they drink, something in their brain triggers them to drink more, and
that's called alcohol. Hey, this is a really good idea. Let's hit it.
Some people have 3, 4, 5 drinks, and you start to slow down. And some people drink 4 or 5 drinks and it almost ramps them up.
Yeah. It's
where you don't feel the pain.
It's gas on a fire. Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm that.
Oh, okay.
So
I wish I'd have met you back in my LA days.
We would have went
We're going
all
out
night. Yeah.
For tonight and the next 3 straight.
That's exactly how I was. Just
God,
drink
would have
and
been
drink.
awesome.
And there's just no stop to it whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I just get stronger and more energy as the night goes on. And all of a sudden it's 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And I'm like, all right, we're going again. And everyone's like, no, it's time to go home. Like,
Yeah.
Will, who's out here, we used to be at the bar and it'll be like 3 a.m. And he'd be like, I'm going to the bathroom. And I'm like, all right. And then he'll text me like, I went home. I'm like, what do you mean you went home? He's like, he's like,
You got ghosted by your own bro.
they always ghost me because they're like, if we told you we were gonna leave, you wouldn't let us leave.
No, bro, no. Just
Exactly.
one more, bro.
One more. You know, so they just leave me.
you there.
Just leave me.
That's cold-blooded,
You know?
man.
But they had to because I just don't know how to stop.
Hey, with friends like that, you know what I mean?
But
You could have wound up in a dumpster somewhere.
I could have ended up anywhere.
Could have wound up in Cedars-Sinai Medical Center,
That's
too.
exactly it.
Fortunately for you, you didn't. So,
And I
and
didn't.
fortunately, you're still here.
And it's weird because I don't throw up when I drink. So it doesn't matter how much I drink.
The last time I threw up from drinking was in L.A.
Hmm.
1989, June 1st, day before my birthday.
Uh-huh.
Last time I've thrown up.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Just I go stronger and stronger and stronger. And I noticed that I was feeling tired. Once I quit drinking, I sleep so much better.
Yeah, that's true too.
I feel physically stronger all the time. I sleep deeper. I wake up feeling better. And the difference between when I used to drink and live my life and once I quit drinking, it's night and day.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I prefer it. I prefer sober life.
You don't need it. I mean, there are certain things in this life that you don't need. Like when you just said, I got to have coffee. No, you don't really. That You don't have to have, like we as Americans eat way, way more food than what we need to. That's why we have an obesity problem in America.
Yes.
And that's why we have a lot of health problems. That's why medical companies are so big. That's why they're building a hospital every 2 days. That's why, I mean, all that stuff. That's why you see these ads on TV for all these isms and things and pills and vitamins and this, that, and the other, because we don't take care of ourselves. We put things in our body that are bad for us. And alcohol is one, overeating is the other. You know, we don't need coffee, but there are some health benefits to coffee. Now, I will say there's not health benefits to the venti, triple chocolate, caramel fudge candy sundae with the whipped cream on top and cherries and whatever else.
Oh,
crap.
now I'm hungry.
That is not, that not so much, you know. But people eat those by the thousands, you know.
Yeah, I don't do medication either. Unless I really need it, I won't even do Tylenol. The likelihood of me taking some sort of pill is very low. If the doctor prescribes something, chances are I probably won't take it. I don't do shots. I don't do anything. I like just figuring it out. I like letting my body figure it out.
Yeah. Well, the body's great. I mean, it will heal itself.
Correct.
Like if you have a cut, it'll heal itself. And that's what it's supposed to do, you know? And it's like, I'm going to say the word COVID.
Oh, no. Demonetized.
Yeah. It's like the body will figure out a way to fight it off.
Yeah.
It will.
Yeah.
It just will. And that was one of the things that I would say this, the first couple of weeks when we weren't sure what the hell it was. Oh my God, what is this? It went from, if you get this, you're dead. Now I'm scared. Oh God. But then when you realize it's just a really pissed off cold that can kill you, but probably won't. If you get it, it's going to suck. And I'm sitting here thinking the best way to get rid of this is for everybody to get it. And granted, this is a bad thing to say. Some people are going to die, but those that don't usually build up immunities and antibodies, and that's how you fight off infection. Your body's been doing it since the dawn of time.
Yep.
And people wanted to circumvent that, and so, that's, I don't know. There's a whole rabbit hole to go down as far as that goes. But like my wife washes her hands like 1,000 times a day. It's germs. I said, big deal. I was like, dude, your body will fight off germs. And I think when you eat good and you exercise and you don't do dumb things like, overeat and become obese, or if you don't, you get drunk all the time and your body's immune system comes down, your chances are you won't get sick. I mean, on the average, I usually get sick about once every 2 years or so, maybe. And it's because I do things throughout the course of the day and the week. They're habits, but my habits make it so that I don't get sick. I did get COVID twice, and I wasn't worried. I was like, okay, I got it. It's going to suck. I stayed home and It sucked, but I mean, granted, I've had nights out drinking where I felt way worse,
Way worse.
for way longer. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
I mean,
That's how I see that.
I've never had the flu, which is crazy. I've never had the flu.
Never.
I've also never had a flu shot.
I haven't either.
Why would I ever get a flu shot when I've never had the flu? Because doctors like, you need to take your flu shot this year. I'm like,
Maybe
I could have listened
don't.
to you, but I've never had the flu.
Yeah.
So how you gonna tell me what I'm doing is right or wrong when 40 years into my life, I've never had it,
Yeah.
which is rare. I've also never had COVID.
Never.
Never.
Well, there's something to be said for that. Whatever it is that you're doing is working.
Which is I don't take pharmaceutical drugs.
Yeah.
I just don't. I'd
a
rather
scary
smoke
thing.
some weed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are some people that I think need to smoke weed, but to your point, you know, in New York, I was just in New York for New Year's Eve. You can't walk a block without walking through this big cloud of like weed smoke. And I'm like, is the whole country smoking pot?
Feels like it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Every major city you
and
go
you
to
wonder why
smells like
nothing's
it
getting
now.
and you wonder why nothing's getting done while people are just staying at home.
Yeah.
They're too lazy to leave. And you know, there are some people that I know. There's a guy I used to be friends with, recently not, but he gets wound up a little bit, you know, and he's all over the place. Now he smokes a little bit of pot. He's cool. Good deal. And I don't think that there's worse things in the world than smoking pot here and there, but when you just do it constantly,
Yeah.
and your life revolves around it. This is a true story. So I was training for this race coming up, and this is recently. It's early in the morning. It's like 7 o'clock in the morning, and there's a big, huge mega Walmart next to my neighborhood. So I'll run around my neighborhood, and then I'll run over to the Walmart. I'll run around the back of it. People will go park on the sides and the back of the Walmart because they know nobody's going to come out there and mess with them. They just sit there in their cars. And I go by this guy's car. He's obviously spent the night there, right? Car's filled with junk all in the back, and the window's cracked open a little bit. I go by and it's this pot smell. I'm like, I'm breathing, killing myself, trying to be healthy, Iron Man guy. And all of a sudden, I'm getting high because this loser's in his car at 7 o'clock in the morning, lighting up. I said, how productive do you think that? What do you think he's going to do for the rest of the day that's going to help get him out of the situation which is it's 7 o'clock in the morning. He lives in his car. He slept in a Walmart parking lot. Probably everything he owns is in that damn car. How is that helping you? Don't worry, I'll wait. It's not.
Yeah.
So quit doing that.
It could be the same situation as you once were, where they have some sort of pain and they're trying to make it go away.
True. I can sympathize with that, obviously, but it's aggravating to me when I'm trying really hard to be healthy and I'm getting out there, I'm running, and then you got to sit there and breathe in pot smoke every time I go by this guy's car.
Trying to eat a salad and the guy next to you is eating a burger.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like sometimes.
You're like looking at him, man, I wish I could have one of those. God, it looks really good.
So we talk a lot about politics in our lives, especially you and I. It's something that we get into from time to time. And there's this idea that politics it's like made up, right? That a lot of it's staged. Why does it even matter? Why do politics matter?
That's a very good question, Matt.
Because people get really amped up over
Yeah.
politics, almost to a point. It almost feels like as though if you care, you can make a difference. But can you even make a difference?
Well, things are changing, and things constantly change because of decisions made throughout the political process, changes that affect our lives. But at the end of the day, really, unless you're some sort of activist, the biggest way that you have an impact on politics is to vote. And even there's questionable practices as far as voting and stuff goes now too, where, you know, those of us that I mean, obviously I think everybody votes for the right reasons. It's almost like we're starting to feel like that doesn't even matter. It doesn't even count, or it's skewed. And nobody wants to feel, I mean, whether you're right or left, I mean, you want to feel like when you vote that your your vote counts. But I think on a day-to-day basis, week-to-week basis, honestly, there's not a lot that we can do. We're sitting there watching all this stuff, this politic thing play out on TV every day. And I always ask people, try this. Try not watching TV for 2 weeks. 2 weeks is a good time. Don't watch TV for 2 weeks. Don't watch politics. Don't look at Facebook politics, and just unplug from all that stuff for 2 weeks and find out how much less tension and stress is in your life. Because I've gone without it for a couple of weeks. I won't watch the news for a few weeks. But lo and behold, I come home, the wife's watching it. Oh, and something they say catches me. I'm like, what? He said, I'll sit there, I'll start watching. Next thing you know, I'm pissed off.
It's just one article to get you triggered, to get you back in the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
It's so easy to grab someone and pull them back in.
I mean, and if you look at it, at the end of the day, news and media companies, they're a business. What's the number one objective of a business? Stay in business. How do you do that? Well, you have to have cash flow. You have to have revenue. And how do you have revenue? Well, at this day and age, it's how many eyeballs you capture. If you're boring, or if you just tell the truth, you're not going to catch a lot of eyeballs. But if you spin something, or you make it where it's blown up, and now it's all dressed up, it's got fireworks, it's got drama, it's got he said, she said, it's got secrecy and evil and good, all these kind of things that are going, if you paint it like a story or a movie, which is kind of what they portray a lot of these situations, now you got more eyeballs. Now you have more audience, and it's power too, right? So the more eyeballs you have, the more power you have. Look at the Kardashians. The Kardashians could say, hey, Matt Kim's new podcast is the best podcast in the world. I listen to this all the time. Oh my God, he's awesome. What do you think's going to happen to your listenership or your viewership?
Kim, shout me out.
Yeah, please do, especially this episode. I love you, Kim. But so, what would happen? You have more eyeballs. You have more eyeballs. You have more revenue. And so that's how the game is played. It's played with the media. It's played with politics. It's played with social media. It's played with Facebook. And so all that stuff, they're all fighting for you. They're trying to pull you in their direction. And, they do a good job at this point.
So my concern with traditional media, news, etc., is that they're no longer the leaders in their own industry. They are falling behind from people and kids, or people who do it online, who give out their information basically for free.
Such as, what's a good example of that?
If someone you consider a Kardashian were to go out, they say something political, or they give an opinion on a matter, they get way more views, more shares, more engagement than if CNN were to go out and do it.
Well, it's not hard to do.
That's not hard. Well, that's what I'm saying. They've lost their power, and they are also followers. The media is now following the trend rather than setting the narrative and setting the trend. They're trying to,
in some regards, yeah.
They're trying to have really polarizing opinions in order to gain people to follow them, but they're not setting the pace any longer. I think it shows that people now have the power that they didn't before. Because before, we used to rely on media to tell us what to think. People are fighting against that model, and now people like you and I, just having this conversation, is able to almost take that power back. Where that leads, I don't know. But what happens when you start taking power away from the people that rely on that power? And then I think we run into a place of chaos. Because these industry leaders are no longer the leaders that they once were. Again, they're chasing the ideas or chasing the narratives that people are already putting out there.
It's kind of like when I talked about earlier about how, like in the 70s, when a record company would sign a band, there was a couple of bands, and that was it. And you listened to those bands. But now, same thing with media. There used to just be the big three. and then you had CNN, and then you started having Fox, and then you start having all these other. Now you got Newsmax. Now you got all MSNBC. All these different outlets. There's so many. There's so much more of them, and they're competing for the same amount of eyeballs. So the only way that you can really, I mean, it's almost. And let me ask you this. Let me get your thoughts. Do you think that a truly neutral, non-grandiose, non-entertainment based type of media outlet that reports things fairly and evenly could even survive today? As you know, because at some point these outlets, Fox has basically decided, I'm going to be right, and CNN I'm going to be left. We're going to cater to that audience, and damn the other guys. And it's back to back. And I think there was there's another like OAN, One American News. So I found them. They are pretty neutral, I would say. They report it as it is, and they don't put a whole lot of fluff and hype. Me and my wife always joke like, she'll be watching Fox, and every other 3 minutes they have a news alert, and it sounds like an airplane coming in hitting the Liberty Bells, like. This just in Fox News, and like, oh my God, and it's just what they said 20 minutes ago, but they just put that bumper on it, and it refocuses people on, hey, we're getting ready to say something. It's not breaking. You just said it 30 minutes ago, but you're saying it again, and you put the airplane hitting the Liberty Bell sound in there. OAN doesn't do that at all, and they're very bland. They're very fact based. This is how it is. But they don't get the viewership that the other people do because they don't have the airplane hitting the Liberty Bell, or they don't have the sound bite that pisses people off. They just don't. So I guess that's my question to you. Do you think? And I guess I've already answered it, because OAN is not nearly as successful and as popular as the very far right and the very far left leaning, right?
I think the success of people like maybe a Joe Rogan, who seems to straddle both sides. I think his popularity shows that there is room for someone that thinks a little more objectively, that looks at different angles, different sides, and tries to relate to both sides. I think that proves that there is a market for it. How the problem is that maybe not him, but most people or most organizations that take that middle ground, they get influenced by sponsorships and money, and eventually they all end up playing the same game.
What's the first rule of business? Stay in business.
Yeah.
How do you stay in business? You got to have cash flow. Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. So how that pans out and how that, solves itself, I don't know. I think it's up to us as a people to have these conversations, put it out there. And the more people consume this type of content, the more these news and media outlets will have to respond, because they're followers now. If that's what people want, that's what they're going to do.
Yeah.
They're doing what people want. So if people are like unhappy with how MSNBC treats certain news, they're doing it because their watchers or listeners are tuning in to it.
And you have ratings too, right? Ratings tell you whether you're doing a good job. Advertisers tell you whether you're doing a good job. So if something you put out there is, and they monitor this stuff daily. If they put out something, they run a story, or they talk about something, and they see the little spike go up, they're going to keep doing more of that. It's like, ooh, that feels good. Keep doing that.
Yeah.
And they do. And I agree with you. And like Joe Rogan, he kind of, I'm pretty sure, and Joe would probably disagree, but it seemed like when he first kind of came out, he leaned a little bit more to the left. He was not a big fan of anything right. But there's a couple things about the right. He says, yeah, I like this, I like that. And now I would say he's sort of I like to call him like myself. He's a free thinker, but he's probably, I would say, and I could be wrong because I don't listen to Joe Rogan all the time. I'll preface that. But just the clips that I've heard and some interviews and stuff, it seems like he's probably a free thinking centrist who maybe goes 1 or 2% to the right, maybe.
I think that's a fair assessment. I think there was a clip of Bill Maher.
That's who I was going to bring up next. That guy,
yeah,
complete 180, it seems like, because he's being honest. He looks and sees the results and says, I'm not with that.
And he said, I'm not the one that's moved. I'm exactly where I always was. Everything just moved further left and left me behind. And
that's a very good way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah. He said, I'm still the same guy I was. Just the views of the left have gone so much far left that all of a sudden I'm not considered left anymore. He's like,
That's bad. Yeah.
You guys just left without me. You know, you forgot that I'm here.
And Bill's a smart guy.
Yeah.
Joe's a smart guy. You look at guys like Jordan Peterson too. I mean, these are grotesquely smart people. And I think that if
all guys that were not considered right wing before.
No, but like Bill Maher said, it's like some of the parts of the left have gone so far left that it makes them almost look like they're centrists, you know. And I like to think that I'm a free thinker. I mean, as I've given a couple of examples before about how I like to sit back for a little bit and don't really take in a bunch of stimulus from other areas and just look and see for things how they are. You know, I mean, I have an opinion about things, but I like to think that I can look and see the other person's point of view, at least have a discussion. Dude, I have lefty friends that I respect and I love them. And they are the kind of friends, the lefty friends, that you can have a conversation with. You can disagree with. You can, all that stuff. And then when it's over, it's over. But I mean, I've also had, I don't even want to call him a friend anymore, but a guy I was in a band with for a long time. He's way left. I mean, he's way, way left. And he basically disowned me and everybody he used to be in a band. Like, we were in the middle of recording a record, and this is back during COVID. I can't be friends with you guys anymore. And just boom, that was it. It's because of, he knew that we had political views that were different than his and religious views that were different than his. I'm like, those are exactly the people I want to talk to, hear their point of view and hear what they have to say. Because who knows, you know, I want to be considered a free thinker, somebody who can reason and think of rationale and not make emotional decisions, man. Because, you know, emotional decisions are often not the right ones. There's, you know, I heard this saying, you know, no good decision has ever been made out of anger. And I don't think when you get as hyped up and as charged up as the news can make you, it's almost impossible to think rationally or to look at both sides when you're so amped up because of what somebody on the left said or somebody on the right said. Like, if you watch The View, your take on the world is much different than if you watch Tucker Carlson. Now, I've seen both. I've listened to both.
How do you listen to The View, though?
I don't watch it.
That's a tough watch, by the way.
Yeah. I've listened to what they had to say, and when they're spouting off about things that they don't like, or Trump this or the so and so that, I listen. Okay, maybe they got a point, and I'll listen to it. Okay, well, I disagree with that, and here's why. I can tell you why. It's not just because just because he told me to think that way. I think it boils down to core values, right? And if your core values are left leaning, well, then fine. We need left people, you know. And if your core values are more right leaning, that's fine. You need them too. You need a little bit of everybody, because if we were all the same, it would be a very boring place. I often tell people I hire people in my company that are not like me. If we had a company full of me, it'd be Thelma and Louise. We'd drive right off a cliff, man. I mean, you need the yin and the yang, you know, the pro and the con. And you need that, but you also need people who have enough maturity to understand that, you know, I don't agree with them, but I'm gonna listen to what they have to say, and maybe I can pick some good things out of it and use it for my art, you know. But some people can't do that. So that's one of the reasons why, if I see, it's funny when you see people arguing on Facebook about political things or whatever it is. I'm just like, how boring does your life have to be where you have time to sit here and argue on Facebook? Most of the time, it's people don't have a whole lot going on, and they let that push their buttons where I mean, some people are incapable of not replying. They're incapable of it.
Have to.
I've got to. Yeah. And I don't ever want to.
You got to scratch the itch.
It's like crackhead.
Yeah. I
got to respond to them. I'm going to give them a piece of my mind. And it's like, you don't have to.
Yeah.
They have their opinion. You have yours. Can anybody listen to this, tell me, anytime you've gotten into an argument with somebody over a point on Facebook where you've changed their opinion? Don't worry, I'll wait. Never has that happened. Oh,
that was a really good point. You're right.
Yeah, I get your point. I'm with you now. That never happens. So it's not going to happen. So stop it. Stop arguing with people on Facebook about politics. It solves nothing. It wastes time. It makes you look like a big goober. So don't do it.
So most people don't know, but I actually studied, I have a major in political science.
I did not know that, and we're friends.
Yeah. I did my major study on the geopolitical relationship between Beijing, Seoul, and Tokyo, and its impact on U.S. society and economy.
Wow, that's awesome.
So that's what I studied.
Well, let me ask you this: Did you make an F?
No, I did well.
Okay. If you failed it, then we're about on the same level, because I would absolutely fail that class.
And one thing I learned during my study of political science is that the president is just a figurehead. That we elect them to represent the country, not to run the
You're talking about
country.
the U.S. specifically.
Correct.
Right.
And I feel like every president we've ever had knew that their job is to represent the country, not to actually lead and run the country. Everyone knew that, except Trump. He thought that when he became president,
I was going to circle back around on that particular one. Yeah.
he thought that if he were to become president, he's actually in charge of the country. He didn't get the memo that
Yeah.
his job is to be a figurehead,
Yeah.
not the actual leader. Can he win again?
Can? Absolutely.
You think?
Will? Lot of runway between here and there. It's hard to say. It's hard to say.
There obviously DeSantis is trending. If he's really trending or not, I don't know. I feel like the media can make it seem like he's more popular than he is, just to create the
I think
sense.
Florida says he's popular.
Florida does say he's popular.
Yeah.
But how many people really relate to Florida when push comes to shove? People
People
assume
all over the country do, because they're moving there.
they are. But if everyone that relates to Florida moves to Florida, then like there's not a lot of people who believe in Florida not in Florida.
Yeah.
Right? All the people that believe in the way Florida does things, if they're in Florida now,
Right.
there's not a lot of them in the rest of the country, because you need more than just Florida to win presidency.
Yeah, you do.
You think Trump can win again?
I would say yes, but there's an asterisk next to it. You know, I asked my lefty friend this too. He lives out in California. He grew up in Chicago, so he's full on left guy, but he's a free thinker. And he and I, every election night for the last, I think, 12 years, we call each other on election night. His guy wins sometimes my guy wins. Mm-hmm. And when his guy wins, we have an intelligent conversation. I wish him the best, and we'll talk again in 4 years. You know, we talk interim between now and then. But I asked him, I said, listen to me. For what he did, take away the faces he makes, the snide remarks, telling people to shut up, some of the crass things that he said, and some of the way he's disrespected other people when he speaks to them. Take away all that. Look at the what actually happened. Do you agree with some of his policies, and do you think he did a good job? And he even admitted, he said, yes, I just don't like him. Mm-hmm. And so I think that
goes back to the original statement, where is the president supposed to represent us, or are they supposed to actually create policy that matters? And that's a political, philosophical question, really, because what is the role of the president? And if you believe that the role of the president is to represent this country to the rest of the world, then I can see why people don't like Trump. If the role of the president is to enact some sort of change in policy and affect the direction of the country and, in essence, the world, then maybe, like, how could you not like Trump? Because at least he's trying to do his job.
Yeah, I think, and this
It
is
doesn't matter
where
what that job is.
And this is where I'm honest with myself, and I try to be a free thinker and honest about everything. I voted for Trump. I wanted him to win. I had a friend of mine was over here from Paris, and what they hear over there and what we know about him here is two different things. He's the orange Satan over there. He's going to destroy the world. And so she came over. This man cannot win. Why is he running? I was like, hold on a second, lady. I said, let me explain this to you. I said, I've followed this guy since I was first in business. I said, the guy's a winner. If he says he's going to do something, he does it, and he will win. He goes, this is not possible. He will not win. I said, look at me. He is going to win. And she just thought it was preposterous. Well, election night comes. I videotaped it. I sent it to her. I said, he is a winner. Winners win, losers lose. I said, I told you he was going to win. But when he got in there, you know, the principles and policies, I think a lot of people got behind. And his policies, his principles, the way he views America's place in the world, economic things, I can't disagree with any of it. But I do think if somebody were to sit down, like I don't know, a communications expert, which you figure he would have, would explain to him. And I'm sure they have, but he's not going to change.
Yeah, he is who he is.
If he would change a few things, just a few things, maybe watch some Reagan video or something, or some JFK video, something like that, and adopt some of the behavioral policies and some of the speech policy, and maybe say less as opposed to more. Say things by what you do, not by just to say them. Now, when he would tell reporters, you're lying, sit down and throw them out and call people out, I love that kind of stuff. Most people are very uncomfortable with that because they think, oh, that's not how a president should be acting. But people treat the president very poorly now because if you look back, the whole office of the president, back when it was first enacted, back in George Washington's days, you know, the president was not supposed to be a politician. The president was not supposed to be a career person. The president was supposed to be somebody that represented the will of the people. He was supposed to be a commoner. He was supposed to be an average man that was sent to D.C. to sort of unite everybody. And the senators and all those people, when they came from their individual states and regions, these people were farmers. They were school teachers. They were bankers. They were, you know, average people that said, hey, we like this guy. He's a good communicator. He knows, he's been in this town his whole life. He knows what we want. Let's send him to Washington with our message. He was supposed to go there. They have the Congress. President oversees all that stuff. And they talk about things. They make laws. And this is what we see where we live. This is what we see where we live. And they put a plan together and they go back home. And then the president takes whatever they said. I'm being very, very, very basic here. Take what they said, and then they would go out and they would enact the laws and enforce the laws and create them. And so now it's not like that anymore. You got people that go to Washington and never leave. They've been there for 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. And last I checked, you know, these people only make a couple $100,000 a year. But they're flying around in jets. They got vacation homes. Wealth. They got yachts. Ridiculous. They got why? And you got to ask yourself: if I'm this is Republican and Democrat. This is me being honest. This is me being a free thinker. Why is that? Is that what we were meant to do? No, that's not how it was meant to be. The president was supposed to be the main guy in charge that kind of helped set the policies based off what the consensus of the senators and the Congress and everybody was. To your point, I think now is the president. The current one we have, is he just a figurehead? Yeah. Do I think he's hard at work doing stuff like that? Absolutely not. No. I firmly believe it's like Oz, right? The guy behind the curtain. There's other people guiding this guy because they got him elected because they know he's gonna go out there and be a yes man. Hey, you want some more money? You want some of this? You want to blow the lid on all this stuff? Here's what we need you to do. Got it. Done. Trump was not like that, and I think that really pissed off a lot of people, Republicans and Democrats. So anything I think that we can do for the political system to stick a stick in the spokes and mess things up so that we can fix it and rebuild it, I'm all for. I like the fact that he came in like a wrecking ball
and just disrupted.
I like that. Disruptors history has always been favorable to disruptors. You know, Steve Jobs was a disruptor. You know, Edison was a disruptor.
And Steve Jobs.
J.P. Morgan was a disruptor.
From everything we've learned about Steve Jobs now, He was not a nice guy.
Not at all.
But we remember him as innovator,
Yep.
as a thinker.
He
as
changed the
someone
world.
as a revolutionary.
Yep.
But he was not a nice guy, not a good person. Was very mean to people.
Yep.
But people just looked the other way.
Yep.
That's no problem.
But you wanted to be on his team because if you did, you were a winner.
I think my solution, my idea to fix maybe government is that possibly we should just start paying them more. Pay congressmen, women, congress people, pay our federal elected officials more money. Because the money lost and wasted in corruption is so high. So instead, pay them more. But if you're found guilty of any sort of theft, of any sort of improper trading, if you are benefiting from maybe donors that you shouldn't be, that you should be removed and imprisoned immediately. Make the penalty for being shady very high.
Make the reward high, but the penalty is equally as high.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What we would have is more qualified people trying to go for that position because you get paid more to do it. Because not a lot of qualified people in their own respective industries are trying to join government. Government is a very low paying job. You have to have been there and in the swamp for enough time where you can make enough side deals to make your money back. If you paid them more upfront, maybe people would be willing to go give 2, 4, 6 years.
I think there should be term limits on both sides. I mean, I don't think there's any reason why you should have an 80-year-old guy or girl still in Congress and they got there when they were in their 30s. You just shouldn't.
No. I mean, if you want to make your lobby money, make it after you leave your position. After you leave, cut as many deals with as many lobbyists as you want.
You're a private citizen.
But while you're a government employee or a government service employee, no extra cash. Extra money.
See, I don't think you should pay them more. I think you should have term limits and have the guidelines like what you said. Say, look, you're going to serve the people. You're going to operate on a budget. If that's what you want to help your country, you want to set policy, you want to do things that are going to change the way this country is ran, great. You've got 8 years. I mean, I don't know what the policy terms would be. I would think anywhere between, let's call it, 10, 15 years. Go there. You got 10, 15 years tops. After that, you go back to the private sector. All your experiences, you can write books, you can give talks, you can give lectures, you can do your side deals. At that point, I'm a capitalist, so you are a free citizen. I'm an entrepreneur as well. That's why I have my shirt on. Thanks, Patrick Bay David. You're a free citizen. You're free to do those kind of things without any kind of recourse, but not on a taxpayer's dime. I agree with Reagan. The government's too big.
It is too big.
It's like a company, right? And Trump was the first person in a long time to come in and run it like a company. Like I said, the government doesn't make money. I mean, they technically they do through the Treasury, but they don't earn the money. They take it from us. So we already established this before that, the first rule of business is to stay in business, and you can't stay in business without cash flow. So the government, the bigger it gets, wants to stay big. Well, how do you do that? You do it through cash flow. You got to take it from more people. And so the bigger the government gets, the more it hurts the people that they're taking the money from. That money's better spent, and we can spend a lot more wisely than they can. I'm sorry to tell you, when you spend $2 billion on tree equity in San Francisco, which was a thing, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
Does it change the country to spend $2 billion? Dude, $2 billion, you could eradicate homelessness tomorrow.
That's crazy.
For tree equity.
It's just crazy how
Somebody
we
tell me what that
billions around with B's and T's and trillions, and we just say those numbers like they're meaningless. But it's
the
just
debt clock's
immense.
only going one way. It's going up. And I'll tell you, if this country and our debt and what we owe, if we were a private company, we'd be out of business a long time ago. No bank is going to loan us money when we're that far in debt. My line of credit is not going up. I'll tell you that. I can't afford to hire more people that much in debt. But if you've got an endless supply of banking, oh, let's just raise the debt ceiling, which they're talking about doing again. Oh, let's just borrow some money from China. Let's just take more taxes out. Because when you hear tax increase, that's their way of saying, we screwed up. We don't have any money left, but we want to keep getting bigger. So we're just going to take more from you. That's code. That's government code for that's what that means. And it's just maddening because if it were my company, we'd be out of business, period. But we can't let the government go out of business, can we? We just follow along.
I definitely believe that federal government is getting too big, too strong. They are overstepping their bounds, and we've given them just way too much power. I think there should be a movement towards bringing that power.
Anarchy?
Not anarchy, but close. I think we should bring the power back to local government.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't mind paying more taxes if I knew that tax money was helping the area around me. If they said you're going to increase your local tax and your city tax and even your state tax, we'll increase it 5%, but we'll lower your federal tax 5%. Awesome. Take my money.
Say, we're going to take more from you. Here's what we're going to do with it. And because you're local, you know, hey, we're going to build this road. Okay.
Awesome.
If it's 6 months or a year goes by and there's no road, hey man, where's my road?
Yeah.
You took more taxes. Where's the road?
And you can hold them accountable.
But you don't know that because the country and the government are so big now. They take more taxes. And like, I'll give you an example. A bill is not a bill anymore. If they say, hey, we're going to do this, we love the veterans bill. They're like, oh, that's great. We love veterans.
Sounds fantastic.
Sounds fantastic. Let's do it. 2% of the bill has to do with veterans. I'm just using that as a it's usually a very small, finite amount. The rest of it is tree equity. They're studying immigration patterns of the butterfly in Malaysia, transgender rights in the Philippines. I mean, it goes to all these things that we don't give a damn about.
Just inflated government programs that don't affect daily people in their daily lives.
It doesn't. And I guarantee you, I think before they sign a bill, first of all, there should be a law that says
you have to read it.
Yeah. Or if the bill is for this, that's it.
Yeah.
Nobody else is getting in.
Yeah.
This is what it's for. If there's a word in here that has anything about some other thing, we're cutting it out.
How about we make the people voting on the bill, they have to pass a test about what's in the bill before they sign it.
Nothing would get done. You would cease to have 25,000 page bills.
You have to read all 25,000 pages, and you don't even need 100. You just need to get 60% of the questions right in order to have the ability to sign and vote.
And most of the time they don't. Miss Pelosi, former Speaker of the House, said the same thing. Well, we have to get the bill and pass it, and before we can read it. I was like, no, you don't.
That makes no sense.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
What if I did that with my contracts at work? Oh, I'm just going to go ahead and sign it, and then we'll read it later.
Yeah.
You signed away all your rights. You can't change anything at that point. There again, I'll say it again. If my company was ran the same way that this country was, I would not be in business. Just not. That's sad.
It is sad.
It's going to take a jackhammer, wrecking hammer kind of moment or person or persons or entity to come in and mess it all up and start over. I mean, it's almost like we're crescendoing to the part where it's almost inevitable. So what happens if the way we do things now is completely erased and destroyed? We have to start over.
But we've all seen what they did to Trump. He came in thinking that he had a real job, and he tried to do his job. Whether or not you agree with him, that's secondary. The reality is that he thought he was in charge, and he tried to do it the way he thought he was supposed to do it, and they wrecked him for it. Why would anyone ever again want to be in that position?
I don't know. It's just it's status symbol, I guess. Because I mean, he didn't get paid any money. I mean, he donated his salary. Of course, he didn't need money, but I guess it's just the vanity. I mean, there has to be a little bit of ego, right? You have to be an egomaniac to want to have that job.
You need to have a huge ego to want the job. You have to have no ego to be able to put up and go through the process of getting the job. Because you have to sacrifice your entire ego, knowing half the country will overanalyze every minute aspect of your life and break it down and call you evil, regardless of which side you are on.
Yeah.
and you have to be willing to go through that in almost masochistic fashion. But at
You
the
have
same
to,
time,
you have to be a glutton for punishment, for sure.
But you guys be so big that you think it's worth it. It's a really weird person you're looking for.
Yeah. Oddly enough, every 4 years, people crawl out of the woodwork. I'll do it. I'll do it. I don't think I would want the job. Now, would it be cool to say you're the president of the United States and get flown out on Air Force One, you know, and get treated the way you do? I think for a minute, but you do live in a bubble. And I went to it was one of Patrick Bet-David's events in Texas for his PHP thing. He was interviewing former President George Bush, and I didn't know this, but when you're president, like you can't drive.
Nope.
You can't drive anything. And
You
when
can drive on your own property.
yeah, and when you leave office, you still can't drive. They drive you around because you have to be protected at all times. The only way George Bush is able to drive is you hit it on his property. So he has a pickup truck. He can drive within the confines of his property, but he's tailed by people. So they let
Like
him
a child.
they actually let him drive the truck, but he doesn't just, I'm going to go out and drive the tractor. That doesn't happen.
I'm going to Walmart.
That doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. And I will tell you, if you've ever been in a place where a president is, when we were in, I mean, they said, hey, the president's going to be here in a little bit. No bags, no phones. 20 minutes before he gets here, you need to be in this room. We're locking the doors. Secret Service will be at those doors. You cannot come in and out. So if you got to pee, you better go do it now. If not, you're going to pee in a bottle. And he says, no ins, no outs. No, this place will be locked down. If you pull your phone out, and we will know, the person sitting next to you could be a Secret Service agent. I'm not telling you who they are, but they're everywhere in this crowd. You pull a phone out, you'll be arrested, and they're taking you out of here. I was like, damn. It's no joke, man. So when they locked it down, you feel like, oh shit. And all of a sudden, here comes the president. And he walks out. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. So,
Then, with the craziness of the world and how fast the world is changing, what does the future hold? What do we have to look forward to?
I can't speak for the world, but
What does your future hold?
man,
Tough one.
no, it's not tough. It's because I spend a lot of time thinking about this. I think you look at a director or a producer, they're in charge of creating what you see in a movie. Well, your life is a movie. You're the director and the producer. And guess what? You're the leading actor. People have the ability to make their life happen.
And also the villain.
And the villain. Yeah, I've been the villain of my own story a few times. Why did you do that, girl? But no, I mean, people don't realize how much control they have over their own lives. And for me, I have practiced and worked tirelessly on what I tell myself and what I think is possible and what I know is possible, and packing away those little wins and those experiences and those hard lessons that I've learned to make myself better. But I have an executive coach. His name's Russ Hall, and the biggest thing, the main thing that he drove into my head when I first started working with him was, if it's in your head, it does not exist. And so I write a lot of things down so that it doesn't stay in my head, so that it will exist. I write down affirmations, goals. Like I said, I have a calendar. I think that things that I've learned from different people, I'll write down, I'll internalize. I read a lot more now that I have a companies. In high school, I never read. I read probably 20 or 30 books a year, plus I do podcasts and seminars and stuff. So, but I have this idea, and I've written down clearly what I want my life to be at the end. If it's a movie and I'm starting right now, what's the next 1 year, 3 year, 5 years, 10 years? What's the end look like? And that was the first exercise that my coach had me do. And I can't stress the significance or the importance of having a coach. Tiger Woods was the best golf player in the world at one point, and he had a coach. So I don't need a coach. I'll figure it out. Well, you can figure it out, or you can have a coach and you get there faster. And so when I got a coach and he started getting all this stuff, I'm a dreamer. So things are floating out all over the place. Oh, I'm chasing this and that. But when I got out of my head and I wrote it down and I articulated it, I'll tell you this story. So when I first hired him, he gave me this long list of like 10 or 12 pages of stuff to fill out. And at the very end of it, it says, what do you want your life to look like? What's a perfect day for you work-wise? What's a perfect day for you in your personal life? So to me, my work and personal life are very, very similar. I'm the same at work as I am at home. What you see is what you get. And I started writing down, I'm a visual person. I like to meditate and all that stuff too. And I'll tell myself things. And I just closed my eyes and I went to the office one day and I sat down and I started really thinking about it. I said, if you could have anything, if somebody says, okay, you pick how you want it to be. And I sat there, everything was quiet. I sat there for 6 hours in my office. I really thought about it. I just want to write some some bullshit answer. I mean, I wanted to really put some, like, what's going to fulfill me? What's going to make me feel like I've had purpose? And I wrote it down, what my perfect day was. I mean, it was down to the car I drove, the kind of stitching that is in. You probably know what car it is. So, I mean, I can tell you what it feels like, what it smells like, what it feels like when it's turned on. The music I'm listening to,
you visualize all of it.
Everything, the clothes I'm wearing, the shape my body's in, the wrinkles in my face, everything.
Wow.
And I thought about it, and I thought about the love of the people around me, how I was able to impact and change people's lives, how I lived, what kind of car, what kind of house, what kind of, what am I doing? I'm still running a company. I'm able to go out and speak to people and help them and teach them everything I've learned so they can become better. And I went through this exercise. When I got to the end of it, I wrote the last line, and it hit me so hard. I mean, I was crying like in my office, and I was like, that's a beautiful life, man. It's like, so what are you waiting on? Let's go do it.
Get to work.
So, yeah. And that's one thing that Russ did. Like, so what a coach does is he helps you put all that stuff together and have a plan in place. Cause you can want one day, all you want to, but unless you have a plan and it's out of your head and you write it down and you have a short, medium, and long-term goals to help you get there, you're never going to get there, man. You're just not. It's all going to be what if. Now, luck can come across the street and hit you. Oh, you lucked up and luck does play like a small sliver of it. But I think you can make your luck too by putting in the work. And
how often do you, when you set these goals for yourself and you visualize and you write it down and you almost try to manifest them, how often do you go back and revise? Because you set a goalpost and sometimes you're not close to where you want it to be. Then you have to readjust and remove the goal so that you can still hit your goal. How often do you do that?
So first of all, I don't reset goals and go backwards. I don't change the goal. I always say, don't wish things were easier, wish you were better. So if I fall short on a goal, it's not the goal's fault. The goal's just the goal.
Yeah.
It's my fault. I have to figure out how to get there. But then when I get there, I enjoy it for a second. But then you just, okay, what's next? When I was out touring in the band, as I said earlier, I didn't make a ton of money. The house we lived in, it was a nice little house. It was like Craftsman style, 2-bedroom house, 2-bathroom, small. It was like 1,200 square feet. And I didn't really pay too much attention to it because I was never in it. So like when I came home and I, quote unquote, retired, and I've spent a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, 6 months, I'm like, damn, that's a little bitty house. And so now I was really focusing on my work and my job. And all of a sudden I started making some money. We started putting some money aside. And my wife and I would do this thing called Dream Day, right? We would go to these neighborhoods we got no business going into. We'd sneak into these houses and be like, oh my God, it'd be so awesome if we could have this house. She goes, yeah, we can't afford this. We can't afford it. I said, we can't afford it now. I said, I used to go to the Mercedes dealership and sit in the car. And right when they had phones on the camera, I would take a picture of my feet and my hands holding the Mercedes steering wheel. Well, fast forward, Mercedes. I couldn't afford that then.
Yeah.
I was not that far from getting my car repoed.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here looking at a $50,000 Mercedes. I was like, I'm not going in there because we can't afford that. You don't need to be in there. And so I was like, it excites something in me that makes me want to achieve more. And I would sit there and, well, now we have 2 of them. And so, we go into these houses, and I would go around to houses. And one day I went into this neighborhood, and when you walked in through the garage, the living room, you open up into it, and it's just like this 18-foot tall windows, and it's this curved wall, like, oh, this big balcony goes around the top of it. It's got a basement and 5 bedrooms and all that kind of stuff. I was like, damn. I was like, man, it'd be great to have a house like this. And so fast forward 6 months later, I said, man, I think I've got enough money to put a down payment on this house. And my wife's like, what do you need a house that big for? I said, we don't. Let's go get it. And so I took her over there to see it, and she says, yes, it'd be nice, but it's too big. I don't know if we can afford it. I said, I got it.
Yeah.
And so they called me one day, we're expanding back. We're expanding the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. Do you want to buy a lot? I'm like, hell yeah. I flew home the next day, $5,000. I want that lot.
Yeah.
Pile of dirt with a big rock on it.
Yeah.
That was it. And as the process went on, we went through the whole process. I was scared shitless. I was like, oh my God, this big house. That's a lot of money.
And every time you pick an option, it gets more expensive very fast.
Sidebar on that. Like when we went to the design place, I went and I capitulated. I told Leila, I said, look, I'm what you're looking for. If you show me the Rolls Royce, I'm getting the Rolls Royce. I'm incapable of getting a lesser thing if you show me that.
I've visualized and manifested this thing for years.
Yeah. I was like,
I'm your customer.
Exactly.
Sign me up.
Exactly. Whatever the biggest upgrade you got, just give it to me. I didn't want to haggle with you over it. Let's just go. And that's what we did. And so we go in there, and we watch the house as it's being built. It's exciting. And I'm sitting thinking, can I pay for this? Can I pay for this? Can I pay for this? And it comes day to move in. I'm so nervous. We go to the leasing office or the attorney's office. We go through the whole thing. They give us the keys, and it was late in the afternoon, so it was starting to get dark. And we went into the house the first time. It's ours. I walk in. There's no furniture. It's quiet. It's just me and her. And I got to be honest, man. I sat there, and I said, we did it. Mm-hmm. And I started crying. I was like, I cannot believe this is our house. And then we had to put furniture in it, and because we didn't have enough furniture to go in.
And here comes the pain again.
And then I discovered this place called Restoration Hardware, which is horribly expensive. And then when I got that bill, I cried again. I was like, shit, I got to get to work. But anyway, we've made it. So I'm happy to say we're still in the house.
Still living there.
Still living there. But I'm not. People are going to think that I'm crazy. But after a while, after about a year or 2 years, I walk in there. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to need something better than this.
Yeah,
this is not enough. This is not it. Yeah, and so people are, why aren't you happy? I was like, I'm happy. I'm ecstatic. You kidding me? This is the guy that had the Indian tear. Ooh, like when I moved in, I love the house. I'm grateful. I am grateful. I practice gratitude every single day of my life. Am I where I want to be? No. Am I grateful for what I have and the experience? Absolutely. I wouldn't trade it for nothing. I know that we'll get there, but there's so many things about the place now that I always feel like you can do better. And if you can do better, then good enough is not okay. To me.
But on the other side of that, when is enough enough?
I don't know.
Like at what point is like, all right, I'm going to enjoy my life now.
My therapist asked me that.
Yeah. When do you just sit back and say, do you know what? I think I'm all right. I'm going to enjoy what I have now.
I don't know. I think for me that there will come a point in time where that happens.
But will it? Because maybe you're just
lying.
built that way.
I'm completely lying.
Right?
No, I think there will though, because at some point you're just gonna be like, I'm tired. I'm good. But there again, I have visualized out what I want and the level I want and the level of comfort and the things and the family and the relationships and the fulfillment that I want. And I think there's a path for me to get there. And when I get there, then I think you almost owe it to yourself to stop and enjoy it. You know, I want to make sure that no matter what happens, I'm going to be okay. If I ever have kids, the kids will be okay. My family will be okay. And I think if you can get to that point where you have the ability to have generational wealth and you don't have to work, that's really freedom to me. Being able to do whatever you want, whenever you want, for as long as you want, with whomever you want. That's freedom. And I think that's when I get to where I have that freedom. Do I have to be a PBD or a Grant Cardone and all that stuff? I don't think so. I've got an area of my life of how I want to be, and I think if I can get that, I'm 52 now. I think I can get there in the next 10 years, and I'll be 62, and then I plan to live to be 100. You know, there could be.
I feel like there may be a greater being that will make that determination for you.
I think so too. Or the proverbial bus.
Yeah, exactly. Not your choice.
Or bad airplane mechanic. You know what I mean? But, that's the plan. And so I figure if by 62, I don't use the word retire. I say work less. So if I can get to a point to where I can still shift what I'm doing, I do want to do philanthropy. I want to start a foundation. I want to be able to go out and speak to people. I want to be able to go out and, coach and teach people and basically pass along what I've learned because, to me, I think any kind of podcast or if I were to write a book or I were to go out and speak to people, you have to know who your audience is. To be a good speaker, you have to know who you're speaking to. And somebody asked me one time, if you were to be a public speaker, who would you want your audience to be? And I said, the 21-year-old version of me. I want to speak to the guys who are where they're at that pivotal point in their life where they can take the right road or the left road. Because I've taken the left road and followed it for a long way and then decided, turn it back around and come back. And then had to go extra super fast back down this way to catch up to where I feel like I should have been. And so if I can prevent somebody from making that same mistake or help guide them or help teach them or help mentor or educate them, I get a lot of joy and satisfaction out of that. And I don't get paid to do any of that kind of stuff, but I would just do it just to do it. But, I do want to have some philanthropic things that I want to do. And then last I checked, you can't do that without money. I want to start a foundation. I think you have to have some kind of money to start that.
Well, I think in philanthropy, the money is the easy part because there are plenty of people in the world that are willing to throw money at something if they don't have to do it themselves. The hard part is finding people with conviction, with passion, that are willing to do the hard work. That's the hard part. The money is the easy part.
Yeah.
If you have a mission, if you have a goal, if you have a vision, people will give you money.
I think that's it. You have to have a vision and you have to be very, very good at telling a story and selling that vision.
And you'll never be good at telling a story until you've told it 100 times.
I talk a lot. So I've told mine for about 30,000 times. Yeah. I got it down. Yeah. So, just to think of where I could be and the people that I could help and the things that, the places where I could go, it's exciting. And that excitement is the fuel. And I know I talk about Ferraris and houses and jets and stuff. And people say, oh, you're so superficial. No, I'm not superficial. And it's not so much the thing, because we are not our things. We're not defined by what we possess. But to me, it is who you become in the pursuit of those things.
The journey.
The lessons that you learn in pursuit of those things. Because let's be honest, having those things is hard. You have to do uncomfortable things. And as we've already established, I like doing hard and uncomfortable things because it makes you better. And I just want to be the best version of me that I can be. And I don't feel like I'm there now. So, I got a lot of work to do. And the harder I can make, obviously sometimes the easy path is what's needed. But a lot of times I learn more and I grow more by doing the harder things. So if back in your drinking days, did you ever go to Napa, California?
No. Even if I were ever to go, I would have never made it past the hotel bar.
Don't you want to go out there and see them? No,
I'm good.
I'll see the final version right here.
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good right here.
So me and my wife went out there, and we're going through these vineyards, and they go through where the place where they actually bring the grapes in and they make them. And there's these huge stainless steel. They're like 30, 40 feet tall. They're huge. Steel pipes and shiny things all over the place, gauges and valves. And then they go down to the fermenting room where they put them in these barrels, and they have a specific temperature, and they check them for pH. All this, it's rocket science how they make these things. And we were on one of these tours, and I asked, because you see the mountain, right? There's grapes up on the top, there's grapes in the middle, there's grapes down in the bottom part of it. And they asked if we had any questions. And I asked him, I said, aren't the grapes on the bottom better and more quality wines come from the grapes that are picked from the bottom than on the top? And he said, well, why would you say that? I said, well, because, it's in soil and it's at the bottom. So all the nutrients and the minerals and stuff, when it rains, would kind of come down and go past all the stuff, and it settles down here in the bottom. So these guys get all the benefits of the nutrients, and it's easier for them down here at the bottom because they get more water, they get less sunlight, and they get all the nutrients. So those grapes are got to be better. He goes, it's just the opposite. Yes, they have it easier. Yes, they have more nutrients. Yes, they get more than the grapes up on the top. But the grapes up on the top have harder soil. They have to work harder to get their roots down there. They have to fight for every drop of water they get because it runs down to these grapes down here. So it's just the opposite. The grapes that are picked from the top of the mountain are the better wine because they're stronger, because they had to work harder, because they had to fight for less water. And the roots are bigger, they're stronger, and they make better grapes because of that, because they had to struggle and fight. And I was like, man, that is a great analogy for life. So if I were going to be a wine, do you want to be Boone's Farm or do you want to be like a 1980 Bordeaux? I don't know, man.
You want to be the one that went through the struggle.
Yeah.
Had to fight.
I think it makes you better. I do.
I agree.
Sure, I'm thirsty. I wish I had some wine now.
Let's do some plugging. You have your own podcast?
Currently, yes.
Currently, yes.
Currently, yes.
And you do it weekly? Used to?
Currently,
sometimes?
no, yeah.
Currently, no? Off and on?
Last year, not last year, 2020. The first year that we started, it's called the Real Deal Podcast with Scott and Keith. I do it with one of my lifelong friends, ex-bandmate, now pastor, Keith Stoneheart.
And available, Stoneheart from the band Stoneheart.
Yes,
awesome.
The band Stoneheart, yeah. And so we, we would have conversations like me and you do. We'd get on the phone. He lives in Birmingham. I live here in Atlanta. And so we, every once in a while, we get on a phone call. And we have these great conversations. And I walked away feeling like I had learned something, or he had presented a different point of view than what I had given him. Obviously, he's a pastor now. I'm an entrepreneur. So, a
little bit different views.
And I'm like, even though you're a pastor, I know what you did.
Yeah.
I too was there.
Yeah.
In that,
I was in Kentucky.
Yeah. He wasn't privy to the Kentucky story, but no. So, we had these great conversations, and then we would get done. It's like, that'd make a great podcast. If we could package it up. And so, we decided to give it a shot. And so that's what we did. And so for the first year, my goal was to do one a week, 52 episodes. And we did 51.
Okay.
Almost made it.
Almost.
I'm pissed off about that one too. And then this year, things have kind of got all over the place. So one, I was kind of more of the content maker, and that's a lot of content to think of. Most of what I'm thinking about now is company stuff and self-development and all that, which is not appealing to people all the time. He just had his first grandchild, and I had to travel a lot for work, and I got races and stuff. So life kind of intervened, and we haven't done it nearly as much in 2022 as we did in 2021. So I think at this point, we both kind of like, maybe it's ran its course. But I will say, if that be the case, I'm grateful for the experience. I think it's made me think differently. I think it's made me want to communicate differently. I think it's done me a lot of good. And at the end of the day, you get to spend more time with my friend, whom I love dearly, and will be my best friend forever. And it's made me think about a lot of things differently. And so I mean, like I said, if we've done our last episode, I'm grateful for it. I learned from it, and we'll probably still talk until the day we die and have those kind of conversations. And we'll probably hang up, man. That'd be a pretty good podcast, you know?
Should have recorded it.
Yeah. We should have recorded one more, you know? But yeah.
But they can, if people watching wanted to, they can go back and find your older episodes.
Anywhere podcasts are found.
Spotify?
I think so.
Think so.
I'm not the tech guy. I just make the content.
You're the idea guy.
Yeah.
Find it.
Yeah.
We'll find it and we'll leave a link on the bottom of this. Also, if they want to see you perform, because you do perform from time to time,
come to my house after 10:30 at night. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm sure your neighbors love you playing the drums at night.
No, I wasn't talking about that. No, so true story. When we moved in this neighborhood, this house that I got, so we saw these people walking. It was a guy and a girl. The guy had long hair. Of course, the girl had long hair. I was like, I bet that guy's in a band. Heather's like, really? And then we started thinking, I said, no, he can't be in a band. I live in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
No way. They don't make money.
Yeah.
But it turns out we got to be friends with them, and sure enough, they were. They were in a band called Cheyenne. And so they left that band. And then when COVID hit, they had a studio in their basement, and they would set up kind of like this, and they would broadcast just him and her. They would do these 80s songs, and they call it Radio 80s. So when the big bad COVID went away, they said, we should put a whole band together. And we walked past their house one day, and they're out front of their house, and they were telling us about this new project. They got Radio 80s, and they knew I played drums.
Of course. They were just baiting you.
Yeah, they knew that I was in a band. And,
that you'd get really excited about this.
But they told me, they were like, hey, we got a bass player and a drummer and a this and a that and stuff. And I was like, you sons of bitches. I was like, man, I was like, dude.
Hello.
Pick me. But, I wasn't sure if I even wanted to spend the time doing it. But they go, before we left, Ben's like, hey.
You play the drums.
Yeah. I was like, do you think you may want to do it? I was like, I don't know. Maybe I was like, I'm really busy. I'm doing big things.
Trying to take over the world.
Yeah, I don't know if I can do all that stuff. But I said, we got a tour? He says, absolutely not. Because everybody in the band either works in an established company or they own a company, or like Ben has his own company. And so, work first. He says, no. We're just going to play 10, 12 times a year locally here, corporate gigs. I said, corporate gig? I said, so we get paid? Oh, yeah, you guys will get paid. I said, we'll make money? I was like, play drums? You don't have to tour 12 times a year and I make money? I'll do it. And then next thing you know, boom, you got to learn these 30 or 40 songs. I'm like, so then now I'm in the basement playing.
Yeah.
And I was like, whew. I mean, I was rusty, but no, man, our first show was sold out. And we're doing cover songs like Journey and all these different things, all these 80s rock songs.
I love 80s rock, by the way.
I do too.
So every once in a while you post a clip of you from behind the drums and putting them up. And usually it's like something with Journey, and I get so hyped watching you guys.
I get hyped playing it.
I get so
when
hyped
you
watching.
hear a sold out crowd of people singing this, I was like, actually, it makes the hair on my neck stand up. I mean,
and that's the fun thing about 80s is that everyone that goes to an 80s show knows all the 80s songs.
Every single one of them.
So the energy is just ridiculous.
It's nothing but the hits.
Yeah.
And I have the fortunate ability. I mean, I didn't know anybody in the band until we had our first practice. And so, Billy and Shane and Jared and Andrew and Ben, we got in a room not knowing if it was going to work. And then the first one was a little wobbly, but I was like, I came away thinking, these guys, I was like, damn, they're good musicians. I was like, I'm going to have to bump my game up. And it did. It made me want to try harder and be better. And I played different styles that I wasn't normally used to playing. It wasn't, all that stuff. But it was something I could have fun with. And it's something I wasn't in charge of the whole thing anymore, so I could actually just learn the song, have fun,
enjoy,
and go home. Yeah. So now it's just fun. So, we don't have to practice a lot. If we're learning a couple new songs, we'll get together once and practice. But we just get together and play the shows, and we're all professional. And we just do. Everybody loves it. I mean, our first 4 shows were sold out. We've had a couple sold out shows. I think there's maybe only been 1 or 2 shows where it was like we just picked the wrong weekend or something. It was a little slower, but for the most part, it's packed every time we play.
I've seen a couple of clips of those, and I mean, we're talking packed.
Yeah.
Like wall to wall, people screaming the songs with you. And it looks so much fun.
Got to get you to come. I got to get you to a show and to the vault.
I gotta do both.
Yeah.
You know. But when are you playing next, or how? If someone watching this was like, "Hey, I would like to figure out and watch Scott Sellers play the drums one day,"
Right.
how would they do that?
Well, as far as the band, we have a website. I think it's Radio 80s Rock, or you just look Radio 80s Band. It'll pop up.
Okay, and we'll link it on the bottom.
I know I think we're playing next weekend. I should probably look at our schedule and find out. But I mean, we've already got, probably 10 or 12 shows booked for the whole year. So, yeah, and most of the time, it's almost all the time, it's here in the Atlanta area. So if you're listening in Spokane, Washington, sorry,
we're not traveling.
We're not coming there. No,
Yet.
You'll have to listen to the real thing. Yeah, but no, if you're here in the Atlanta area, just go to Radio 80s Band or Radio 80s Rock, and it'll pop up. We have a Facebook page and all that stuff too.
Awesome.
So,
thank you for coming.
Man, I can't tell you how excited I was to be able to come here, because I was hoping our conversations were going to be kind of like it was when we're on the phone. And, and it kind of was. So that was good.
No, I think I love talking to you and hearing from you.
Likewise.
I feel like there's so much to learn, and I've mentioned it before, but my gauge of who I bring in to have a conversation with is really, do I feel like I can benefit from you? And do I feel like I can learn something from you? And if you pass that simple gauge of I feel like I can learn, that's who I want to talk to. That's it.
Well, I wouldn't have come here if I didn't feel the same. So, look, I mean, you've been successful. You're a smart guy. You've already told me how you were like a straight A student and badass. And you went to college. That's impressive. They wouldn't let me near. The only time I've been to college is like when we played, or I went to a football game. That's the only time. Other than that, I ain't getting in. But no, I like learning from successful people, and you've definitely been successful and smart guy. You're good at a lot of things that I'm not, and that's the kind of people I want to hang around, are people that kind of fill the gaps, And like I said, if you can have a great conversation. A couple of years ago, my theme for the year was quality people, quality conversations. And I sought out people in my life that I thought were quality people that I could have a quality conversation with. And so that's why I kept calling you. Like, this guy keep calling me, man. God, he's calling me again. I was like, man, you're a quality person. I just want to have a quality conversation. Can we
just
please
talk to me?
Yeah, just talk to me. Yeah. And lo and behold, you did. And we had some good conversations, and here we are. So
awesome. Thank you so much for coming, Scott.
Thank
Appreciate
you. Appreciate you. Thank you.